Hey guys, happy Sunday and welcome back to another week of Sam's Scoops. This week we're breaking down two investigations for you. One's on environment and the other is on healthcare. So diving into the first one, it's from California and it comes to us from the partnership between the Center for Public Integrity, who does a lot of investigative work, and the Los Angeles Times. And so this is actually talking about the drilling industry. So the drilling industry in California has been going down for a while. And so as the industry kind of decreases, businesses, companies close. But unlike just, closing shop and moving out, they have wells all around the state, tens and thousands of them. And when the companies close, those wells don't just poof and get fixed right away. And they're actually finding that there is kind of the state's kind of figuring out how to best cap these wells off because they do pose threats to the public if they're not properly managed, and how to best fund that. So this investigation found that there are 35,000 wells that are sitting idle with production suspended, and half of them have been that way for more than a decade. So you have these wells, used to be drilling things, now they're just sitting there. Why this is a problem is because if unremedied, they can contaminate water supplies. Fumes can waft into people's houses and public buildings that are nearby these. That sounds like a problem. Why aren't we fixing this? Well, there are state and federal laws that do regulate that these companies have a responsibility to clean these up. And they actually, when they start companies, have bonds that they have in place. And it's kind of like a security deposit, is my understanding of it. They put this money aside and they're able to get it back once they meet these cleanup and recovery things that the state requires. However, they're kind of finding the reality of what it costs to actually cap off one of these wells is completely different than what these companies have the funds to do. So looking at the numbers here, the investigation found it costs around $40,000 to $152,000 to cap one well. Meanwhile, these bonds are covering about $230 per well. That's huge. That's a massive difference, right? And so if we looked at companies that have given the state only $110 million to figure out what to do with these old wells, $110 million, but it's estimated to cost about $6 billion to clean it up. So we have these massive differences, and the state has ended up kind of footing the bill to this, which is, we're talking about billions of dollars. Like, that's a massive issue. Meanwhile, uncapped, like I already said, these wells release a potent greenhouse gas, methane, which is also contributing to climate change. But there's also people that are just living around these places. They kind of profiled a bunch of different individuals. One person, they said they moved to outside of Los Angeles to retire and everything like that. Meanwhile, his family is smelling nauseating levels of gas inside his house at certain times. And he worries about the health of children attending the schools across the street from the well. So you have schools, you have houses. I think they found 2 million Californians live in an unsafe distance from an uncapped oil or gas well. And unfortunately, disproportionately, those rates are higher for people who are lower income, Latino, and Black. Those people are living closer, and it's affecting them. There's this quote from the lawmaker in here: "All they want to do is rape the land and leave." That's from Senator Hannah Beth Jackson, from a Santa Barbara Democrat. So she's talking about the oil businesses who profited off the land. She's kind of claiming, and then left the cleanup, most of the cleanup fund-wise, to the state. So they're kind of crafting this, massive issue. This year, I guess the article did say that the California lawmakers are considering a bill that would create kind of a buffer separating wells from homes, schools, hospitals, and other public buildings. We'll have to look into that more and see what the state does. I don't think this is a problem that goes away overnight when you're talking about billions of dollars in health risks, but it's definitely an interesting article, a topic that maybe we don't talk about a lot, and so it was a great investigation. So that's our first one. Second one comes to us from Chicago, ABC7 in Chicago, but it's actually like a nationwide issue. We've been hearing more and more about this, when you talk about childbirth. Back in the day, you read stories, a woman had 8 children, or during the 8th one, she, died in childbirth. And a lot of people think that was just a back then issue. But nationwide, there's actually, these deaths are continuing to happen. And so, and right here in the United States, which is kind of mind-blowing for some people. This investigation spoke to a man who lost his wife in childbirth, but then he actually sued and won $9 million. So it's like the way they treated her in the hospital was found through this lawsuit to be a contributing factor. So it was a 2016 federal lawsuit. The 40-year-old woman who died, she was diagnosed with pneumonia but placed in a regular room and not admitted to intensive care. Most pregnancy-related deaths are preventable, according to this article. They actually said 73 women die annually just in Illinois from childbirth. So those are, I mean, kind of high numbers for something that, an issue that people don't think is happening anymore. They quoted heart disease, stroke, severe bleeding, and infection as some of the top contributing factors. So I just wanted to bring this issue to light because it's not something that we think about all the time, but it is preventable. So if we spread awareness, if we're able to somehow treat it better, this article kind of did have hope at the end because the new laws have passed, kind of regulating ways that we can fix it. It also has money available for grants to help this not happen, and but we're still not seeing improvements, this one doctor was saying. And so continuing to talk about and identifying what the issues are could be one way to help that. They pointed to the Illinois Department of Public Health overseeing efforts to find solutions with millions of dollars in grant money this past summer. More than half of state maternal health laws were passed. Like I said, new legal rights for patients, mandating training for staff to handle childbirth emergencies. So this one's really powerful. It is a broadcast piece, so you can watch the video of the man talking about his wife and that personal element to see that he represents just one of hundreds of people. I think they said 650 national deaths nationwide in America. Just not something you think of when you think of going to have a baby, but it does continue to happen, and still seeing this across the nation be an issue, especially there in Illinois. So those are 2 investigations I have for you guys this week. Hope you enjoy it. Obviously, I'll put the links, and you can, get the full source yourself and maybe dive even deeper than I explained to you there. All right, you guys have a great week.